we're going to talk about the 3 infants that are made within the dark child and the mind control slave. Within the dark child is a self-replicating system. It has the ability to continually regrow. When the infant is taken prior to its infant conception, it's called the Feast of the Beast. And it's that because they're feeding the beast a living sacrifice when they come together to conceive the child. They will have the mother as a recipient, but they will have the husband also, the father and his father, and they'll have both grandparents if they can, and they will have about 5 to 12 different men in the act, minimum of 5, and it depends on the configuration and the entity that they are seeking to have come in, and each entity has a specific number associated with it in its worship. So the Feast of the Beast is where they offer the infant, which is about to be conceived, to the unholy entity. They will seek to make it a chimera. A chimera is where then more than one egg is fertilized, and then the one egg then consumes the other one, thus creating the first murder within the womb before the child's even born. They will also have one egg fertilized by several different individuals, and it is like a form of twinning. It's like a replicating system before the child's even born. And that's why you can have an infant that has 2 different DNAs within it. The organs will have different DNA structure, and it's called chimerization. They will have a multitude of individuals having sex with the mother, and it will be filled with all forms of debauchery, cannibalism. It's a very ritual, ugly ceremony. The child will be conceived, and after the egg is fertilized, the next thing that happens is entity will actually enter into the egg. Before the child's even born, within the womb. It happens spontaneously, and the devil will physically manifest in one of the men, usually the woman's father, and then the other entities will manifest inside of each of the other men. So as they're having sex with a woman, so will all the other entities that are attached to them. And this is how they create the novel or the unholy angel spirit inside the child. Okay, hang with me here. I know this is going fast. They then have, with Hermetic magic rituals, with a Hermetic magic ring, they will insert it within her, 3 different rings, wedding her to the God of this world, in her spirit, her soul, and her body. 1 ring for each of them is a symbolic nature of the Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost. And this is be Astaroth, Satan, and Beelzebub. They will do sacrifices, and they will grind it up into like a pumice type of a mixture stone and mix it all together and into this little tiny bowl. They'll mixture all this stuff up. They'll have animal semen, bull semen, horse semen, human semen, skin blood from sacrifice fresh, and then of course they'll have the living serpent will be killed by the cultage ground up, and they will roll it into the 3 rings and put on the head of a phallic and insert it, and it'll be absorbed into the womb. The vagina has an ability to absorb everything that's in it, and this mixture will all go in there. That ritual is usually done at the age of 3 for females. It seals that so that when it comes time, she'll be able to celebrate the Feast of the Beast with her husband and her family members also. And like I said, they do Hermetic magic to seal that in there. And in this way, it passes the sins of all these different family members and all the lines into that infant, compounding the sin and making it even worse than it was from the beginning. So then what happens is once the child is conceived, they then begin the rituals of dedicating the body, the soul, and the spirit over to the 3 entities. The body, or the flesh, is given over to Astaroth. The 5-pointed star, which means the 5 elements going down, and the soul and the heart given to the god of this world, Satan, and going up, or loose for Baal, whatever name you prefer, Baal, Baal. The spirit is given over to Beelzebub. And that's where the 7 unholy spirits will attach themselves and make their strongholds and create what's called the Baphomet, or the Baphomet within the person. And that's where the 7 unholy spirits, they all come together, and you see this is why they have the variety of people involved. All these people are involved, contributing the DNA, the semen, and all this stuff. The Congress Act, which will produce the child, because each one of them will have one of these unholy spirits in them as well, thus making them the father of the child as they joined in with the person. So what then happens is they'll do a ritual to separate the body, the soul, and the spirit. The heart, which is the soul, will be split into 4 quarters, one for each of the heads of Satan, and each one of these cherub heads will be over one of the 4 parts of the heart. And the center will be the throne of the God of this world. And he will sit and rule. Now he will be either Lucifer or Baal, or Satan, and he'll be the god of this world, and he will give a false light. So the person will have a point in their life when they think they are a born-again believer in Christ, and that's because the god of this world has blinded their minds. And that even happens with a lot of people today. A lot of people think they're born again, but they actually aren't. And the soft, or each one, is a layer, and it's called the veils of Isis in Egyptian ritual magic and Masonic lodge magic. The Masons are very heavily steeped with Egyptian magic, and the Hermetic magic is what we call the Jewish Kabbalistic magic, along with Babylonian magic. It's those 3, and that's why they call the holy name of God. And they mix Jehovah, Baal, and Ashtaroth together. So the Masons will do this ritual also. And you go to Genesis chapter 17, where the Lord says, I will be your God and a God to your seed after you. And they'll use that verse, and they will do the opposite. And they commit Satan to be their God, and they got their seed after them. So it's called a reversal and the antithesis of the Abrahamic promise. I know we said a lot. I was going really fast, but that gives you a basic idea of what goes on in this. So it's all done legally. Now, what they do when they split the body, soul, and spirit, it gives each one of these, literally, archangels, fallen archangels, authority over them and their minions. So the heart will have the 4-headed Satan over it, and it'll have Satan in the middle, has the throne, so there'll be, which is a high-ranking angel, and it's called a cherub, with at least 2 faces, or mostly 4, though more powerful, will have the 4, and they'll hold each one of the throne will actually be the heart. And this is where he tries to sit, and it's what's called the seat of the north, and replicate what Jesus did. And Jesus is the Emmanuel. He saves our soul. He enters our heart. He seals it, circumcises it, makes it flesh so we can feel him. So he can change us, lead us, and guide us. It's called the volatile aspect of men, or that which voluntarily makes decisions. The spirit, and each one of these have an infant. The spirit will have the 7 unholy spirits of Baal above, over. It would be also above, reigning it, and it's called the Baphomet, and it controls the desires and the lusts, the things that are attached, the flesh to the soul. Then you have the flesh, which will be given over to Ashtaroth. The flesh is where all the witches are from, the dark lords and all the warlocks. The pure blood Satanists, and so what they'll do is this. Once they've sealed Ashtaroth and Beelzebub and Satan into these 3 parts, they do it through vows and rituals, sacrifices. And for instance, most people don't know, but the 32nd level of Masonry, you have to drink blood and wine and urine mixed into a skull. And, let's not go into that. But they have to do that for one of their rituals and vows. And the entity Apollyon and Abaddon, the destroyer, come in. And Masons do very serious blasphemy in every vow. And same with the Eastern Star, the Masonic Lodge. It symbolizes Satan or Lucifer. In the Eastern Star, Ashtaroth. And that was for the women. And when you bring them together, it creates the god of this world. And we all know that Satan is the god of this world. And Ashtaroth in the family line, that's what the G in the middle of You get the pyramid going up and the pyramid going down with the masonry and the G in the middle. That means the God of this world. And they will take, and then they'll split each one of these parts. They have divided it into three parts, the body, the soul, and the spirit. And so they'll take and they begin first with the body because the brain is not fully developed yet. And as a result, the child, he can't pass out because they're just too young. They're just a couple months old. So they'll torture that infant. And an infant is unable, their mind is unable to split and have alternate personalities out of the flesh, which will be the witches, where will be at least 5 as seen, maybe even 12, with the 13th being in the middle. It depends on the sect of the occult where they practice. So that witchcraft is the base of everything they are. It's their deception. It's the dark side of the moon, like the Pink Floyd album. And it can't ever see its completely separated from the spirit and the soul. Now, the witch part will always come out at night. It will take over the body, and it's like a doppelganger. And it will do all the works of the flesh. It'll have incest. It'll have torture. It'll eat feces. It'll do debauchery, diabolical acts, like a little murder sacrifices. And the person that is out in the daytime, the normal person, is from the soul part. And so they have no idea what's going on with the other part. Each part has a mirror facing itself, and they cannot see the other side. The light can't see the dark can't see the light. And so when they sleep, so they begin building the spirit. And after the age of 10 months, and that's when they'll shift, because they've already sealed at least 5 to 12 witches to Satan and his worship. And fully knowledgeable, fully powerful, they've already developed it and sealed it. They do what's called a ritual of confirmation. And the males will do it at the age of 2, the females at the age of 3. And that's when they begin to work on the spirit. And they begin doing the rituals to create the tower of the Babylonians in. And it will usually be situated in the throat. It will have an opening in the third eye of the head. It's at this point that the seraphim wrap around the spinal cord, come into the arm, or whatever you do, the work of Satan, and you just don't realize it, or the false god, because it appears as an angel of light. Just like Lucifer tries to counterfeit the light of God, he appears as the angel of light. They each have a different part in what they play in society and governing, so the spirit will become attached. It will be controlled by Beelzebub. And above is the consummation, or the bringing together of the 7 unholy principalities. Because just like Jesus has 7 spirits of God, the devil counterfeits it and brings together the 7 unholy spirits to do, the opposite of all the works of God. A counterfeit. They'll split the personalities out of that. So you'll have parts that are very religious, very moral, but also very given over to the flesh. In the beta programming or sexual programming, you're going to find in the spiritual part. In order to perform acts of bestiality, you create animal parts, because it's natural for a horse to have sex with a horse. It's natural for a cow to have sex with a bull, and they will. It's natural for a dog to have sex with other dogs. It's also natural for monkeys to have sex with gorillas. And they create those sexual animal parts, and it'll be like the human body with an animal head. You see, sometimes it's like a full-blown horse. These people can literally, when these parts come alive, they can drop to their knees and start whining like a horse, actually. And they're not in control of their mind because they're possessed 100% by their spirit. And they also create those sexual parts for the goddess within them. And they don't smile, or they can smile like for the camera and do parts for the camera and do stuff like that. But they're using sex as a tool of manipulation and a weapon to attract people. And if you have a married man and you film him having sex, whether he's maybe a political figure or something with a young girl, let's say at the age of 8 or 9 or 10 or something like that, you can always use that footage against him, and they will threaten them, and that's how they will bring them in with these threats and stuff. But once they bring them in, they will happily do it because they like raping young children. They like hurting people. And that's because of their flesh, which is formed first. It likes to hurt, and it likes to cause pain to others. It makes a complete psychopath. This fleshly sign will be a complete psychopath that will not be able to feel. It is completely detached from the heart and the emotions and the feelings. It is as cold as a dead body or something like that. It's just, they're that cold. It will only feel when it's hurting others, and then it starts coming alive. Its only existence is to serve the darkness and to hurt and bring in more of the kingdom of darkness. The spiritual side will be that which works off of the lusts, and like from Ashtaroth. Now, they will take and split the flesh and the spirit and the soul. They will then take out of the soul the heart, and they will split and have 3 primary personalities, not 2, 3. You see, the first split happens and it splits 2 parts, which is the body and the spirit. That's when the life force comes up. Then those will be split into 2. The soul is the one that's got the first angel in it, or the Nephilim, and it goes to the top of the tree. But these will have 2 split up and 2 split down. And then they will have 3 out of those. I know this sounds complicated. So it's like a trident. If you look at ancient tablets showing Ishtar or Astaroth, you'll see on both sides of her, there's a 3-headed trident with 3 points going down, but it'll also be split into 2 and out of a single one. So they will then split the personalities, and all the things of fantasy and of the world will be in that part. That's also where you will find assassins, and when you're going to find that are trained, skilled for computers, or whatever the job, they have to have a part in for that, and that's what they're programmed to do. They split the 3, and usually it'll be 3. One infant splits into 3 infants, and then each one of those come up will be split into 4. When people search for the core, they're talking about one of those 4. But what they don't know is that there are 3 sets of 4 at a bare minimum, and there could be more. Each one, that's 12, so there'll be 12 cores. And out of those 12 cores will then be split 12 altars coming out of each one of the 4 splits. So you'll have 48 personalities split out of each one of these 4. And those 48 will come together with the singular one, which creates the 4th set. And the 4, that's the actual life force. And this is called the 16. There are 16 cores at that point. The 4 at the base will actually be a complete replicating system for everything coming out. And there's a backup system, and that's in the no conscience part of the brain, or you could say your subconscious. And it's at the base of the brain, in the lower, there's a lower 3/8 is a central fissure point, and just below there's a thin slice, and it's the no conscience. It's called the brain box, the computer, or the basement, and that's what they do call it in mind control programming. Now, out of the soul, you will have all the parts that fit into society. There will be 2 primary parts, which are at the base. But then out of them will be split 3, each with 4 each split out of them. And that's why it looks like a tree, and it's called the tree of life and the tree of death. Because on the bottom side, to balance it out, you'll have one that's the opposite. So you'll have a very virtuous Christian on the top, or Hindu or Muslim or whatever that religion of their area is. But then at the exact opposite, or the bottom, because of the balance, the one rules by day and the one rules by night, you'll have the complete opposite. And this is just to bring to light and help those who want to be helped. And it's always like there's 2 in there. The book of Genesis says one rules by day and one rules by night. Satan uses that. And the dark child will come forth during the nighttime. The light child comes forth during the daytime. Well, I know this was a lot, It was quick, and I hope this helps with you. God bless. Leave your comment and your questions, and if I can help you, contact me. Thank you. Bye-bye.